What's up, fight fans? YouTube. This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news for you. Today is Wednesday, so the topic would be Fantasy Wednesday. I try to always, talk about two possible fighters that either one from another era and this era, or both from another era that just never happened. And the first one came to mind for me this week would be Mike Tyson versus David Tua. This fight has always been a fantasy matchup, especially in the 80s or possibly, the 90s or possibly early 2000s, when these guys were just hard-hitting bangers. Let's look at the two guys. We got Mike Tyson, 5'10", 220 pounds, 215 to 220, 71-inch reach. What's the wins? What can I remember on Mike Tyson? Mike Tyson had 50 wins, 6 losses, 2 no contests, 44 by KO. David Tua had around 53 wins, 5 losses? No, 52 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws, and 43 by knockout. So these guys damn near have 90 knockouts between each other. So you can tell their knockout ratio is very, very high. These guys fought basically the same. That's why it's a similar matchup in an arm length to the armpit, to the tip of the fingertips. You got Mike Tyson, 71-inch reach, David Tua, 70-inch reach. Same height, basically the same size. David Tua did balloon up later in his career, and that's probably had a lot to do with, I think, inactivity. But who would win between a fight between these two guys? You know what I'm saying? A lot of people would say Mike Tyson easy, because he was a little quicker than David Tua, especially after the weight gain with David Tua. He was more mobile than David Tua. And I think that's true. Because Mike Tyson was a short, stocky guy. You look at Mike Tyson, if he was a dog, he would definitely be like a pit bull. David Tua, if he was a dog, he would be something like a Rottweiler. Because David Tua is a guy that he's short, stocky, very hard-hitting. He's known for his left hook. But after the Lewis fight, he went to a couple trainers. He went to the Goosens after he left Ronnie Shields. And, he found out that, he can knock you out with his right hand too, which was kind of retarded. That's how he knocked out Frezo Kendo. He hit him with a right hand, and then he realized, dude, I have just as much power in my right than my left. So let's say they fought in the 90s, pre-Lewis, because, he actually changed up his fighting style a little bit. And he fought Mike Tyson, then that would be a very interesting fight. And then they never fought each other, but based on the guys, they both fought Lewis, so the common fighter would be Lennox Lewis. Strangely, though, Mike didn't fight probably any other fighter that you can really, that can compare those two. Because you had so many heavyweights in the 90s. You had lots of heavyweights. You had a stable from Bob Arum to Don King. You had a lot of heavyweights. Heavyweight boxing was alive and well in the 90s in America. Okay, I have to emphasize in America because, the Klitschko's took over in the early 2000s and didn't let go until not too long ago, really. So you had a lot of heavyweights, and they fought different guys. David Tua had his first loss was one of the best fights I ever saw. These guys landed over 1,200 punches between each other. That's a lot of punching, especially from that weight class. But that's when David Tua was 222 pounds. He was considered like the baby Tyson or the Mike Tyson-ish type fighter. They called him the Tua man. He could hit you and hurt you with either hand. But this guy that he fought was an anomaly. He was a sleeping giant. He was like Jaime Munguia is now. Ike Barabucci was the kind of guy that no one really wanted to fight. No one really fought. But David Tua fought this guy tooth and nail to the 12th round, and it was a very intense fight. But it showed that David Tua can take a punch. Now, I did see him rocked a few times in that fight. Each time David Tua got off a punch, he would get off a punch against Ike Abarabuchi. Ike Abarabuchi would come back. He had a direct rebuttal. He had a great counterpunch for that. But, he still lost because Ike Abarabuchi knew when to turn it up, and he still stayed boxing and still kept busy. So not only did he land hard punches, he still kept those jabs into his face. But Tua proved that he can take punches from a stronger guy. Now the question is, why am I talking about Ike Abarabuchi? It's supposed to be about Mike Tyson. Well, I'm getting there. The point is that Ike Abarabuchi is the kind of guy that can knock you out too. Can Ike Abarabuchi hit as hard as Mike Tyson could at that time? Okay, so that's the question you ask yourself. Ike Abarabuchi, 6'2", 220, massive left hooks, great uppercuts, hard rights. The guy was a hard punching machine. The only problem is he really wasn't tested because a lot of other stuff personally that happened to the guy. But, that's the question you ask yourself. The power that and the punches that Tua took from Mike Abarabuchi, could he take those from Mike Tyson? Because David Tua went 95, 96% of his career, never been dropped. He only got dropped in one fight that I can remember. Okay. If he did lose, most of the time they were by unanimous decision. Okay. So I'm trying to see if he could take Mike Tyson's power, because a lot of people could not, and if you could compare the Ike Abarabuchi David Tua to any fight that Mike Tyson has fought, you just look at the first fight between Tyson and Holyfield 1. And Holyfield fought Mike Tyson exactly, almost to the T, like Ike Abarabuchi fought David Tua. So it was like, Holyfield was not scared of Tyson. Holyfield knew how to jump under those hooks because he knew what to look for. He looked for the weave. He would step to the left. Then after Tyson would throw those hooks, left hook or right hook, he would come with uppercuts to the body and upstairs. Then he'd follow it with a hook. It was classic. He knew what he was doing. He studied Mike Tyson, okay? But he was not afraid of Mike Tyson, just like Ike Abarabuchi was not afraid of David Tua. But like Holyfield and Tyson, Holyfield did have a slight height advantage over Mike Tyson. But as compared to David Tua was overtowered by Ike Abarabuchi for about at least 3 or 4 inches. Because, Ike Abarabuchi's about my height, and I'm about 6'2". Okay, so, fighting a guy like that, you can see his shoulders, you can see everything. You could pretty much see stuff coming. That's why Lewis had an easy time with David Tua. So, but the guys fighting each other, and if it was in the 90s, could Tyson hurt Tua? I believe he can. I believe he could. I believe he could hurt Tua. But I think the way Tua fights, they would fight in a phone booth. Can you imagine that? Because Tua's not that mobile. If anybody would move, it would be Mike Tyson. If Tua would corner him. And I see Tua cornering Tyson being the quicker guy. Okay, so in the middle of the ring, I don't know. I see him throwing punches in the middle of the ring. Because every time I look around, I think of the Tua Ike Abarabuchi fight, and they did throw massive hooks. They were throwing bombs over Baghdad at each other. So I see that fight happening that way. Uppercuts. Tua has a great left uppercut. Tyson has a right and left good uppercut. Who could punch harder? I don't really know. Tua could get you out. He could get you out of there in seconds. So can Tyson, though. These guys hit, they were out quick, 18 seconds. What was that? John Ruiz. Tua knocked him out. 30 seconds. Michael Moore. Tua knocked him out. They are both dangerous guys, but for one punch knockout power, I think Tyson had that in the 80s. I don't necessarily think he had that in the 90s because his competition, the level of competition was rose. Whereas Tua was thrown in there like guys like the Sleeping Giant, like Ike Abarabuchi, which no one, the problem is no one else fought Ike Abarabuchi. You know what I mean? Except Chris Bird. And we all know what happened to Chris Bird. If you don't know, he was knocked out in round 5, and he was one of the best, awkwardest, most difficult, avoided heavyweights that you could possibly have. So a win over Chris Bird is very impressive coming from Micah Barabucci. So Tua was always in there with these difficult guys. He's fought Lewis, David Izon, Oleg Moskayev, Chris Bird, Hassan Rahman, and he fought Rahman actually 3 times. So that was more like his rival because the way that was stopped, But back to these guys fighting, man. I give the advantage to Mike in speed, slight in power, because we don't know how his punches will be affected when he hits Tua. Because he could hit Tua, and Tua could, tuck his chin, because the guy had a thick chin, thick neck, thick calves. He was durable. Mike Tyson also had his thick, massive neck. Like people say, neck like Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? That's what that means. He has a very massive neck. So these guys can take punches. And Mike Tyson can take punches too. But I think it's when he gets discouraged from his power and he can't exhort that or express that power, or the fighters that are not reacting to his power like he wants, like Holyfield did. I think that was pretty discouraging, along with the headbutts. We got to put that in there, right? That's discouraging to Mike Tyson. So, a clean knockout fight. And then both of these guys like each other. So we got to add that in there. Tyson didn't personally like Lewis, until Lewis beat the hell out of him, right? But that, he came in reckless. You know what I mean? So I don't see these guys. I think it more like, I would look at a fight like Ward and Gotti, because these two guys like each other. But I think if they go in the ring and to perform, it would be a massive fight. 12 rounds, I don't know. I think who can either get those punches off, and I think Tyson would. I see Tyson uppercutting and coming under the hook of Tua, trying to rebuttal, trying to counterpunch with his left, being quick and, and rocking it off that right against Tua. And how will Tua react to it? So it was one of these fights that never happened that I would love to see, because these guys fought at the same time for years. They're only 6 years apart. Whereas Mike Tyson was already, Mike Tyson started early, dude. We've been looking at Mike Tyson for years. For what? 80s, 90s, 2000s. We've been looking at this guy for literally 40 years. 4 decades, let's say that. We've seen the public eye has seen Mike Tyson rise, fall, come back, but he's still only 51 years of age. David Tua, he started it, I think, at 20 or whatever. And, he had a good career himself. But these guys fighting each other, I want to know what David Tua would do to Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? Like, what would happen? Because if you could count anybody for one punch knockout power, it would go to David Tua at any era. Because see, Tua it didn't matter if Tua was 253 pounds, because the guy would balloon up. Okay. We don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter. It'd probably be worse if he hit you at 253. But at 223, it really wouldn't matter. He would still knock you out. Let him hit you with the left. KO. He'll put you to sleep. And that's what he did. So that's the thing. Tyson was the guy that has been knocked out a few times. You know what I'm saying? So, Buster Douglas, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, he was stopped and Evander Holyfield one fight. And countless other fights when he got older. But Tua was the durable guy that, that weathered the storm, that were able to take punching powers. The only question is, could he take Tyson's? But he has taken some hard punches. So I would think, yeah, Tyson can get those punches off faster with left hook to left hook, uppercuts to uppercuts, rights to rights, and spin out and use his ability, But what could he do if David Tua was able to hit him and connect with him? Left uppercut, left hook, So that's the question you ask yourself. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think. I think Tyson early or Tua early. Tyson could get him with the speed if Tyson can catch him with um, those are the hard punches early and maybe can stop Tua, you know. But I don't know if he could drop Tua. You know what I mean? But but I think if Tua can catch him with the left hook, the perfect left hook, he would knock out anyone, including Mike Tyson. So you guys, again, you guys tell me what you think about this. I hope you enjoyed this Fantasy Wednesday. This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News. Please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.